she is one very attractive grandmother. You know that? She's really something. I should remember. Thank you. You know, about 4 years ago, we elected a guy we didn't know terribly well. He didn't have much of a track record to look to, but he was filled with promises of change and hope. We've seen a lot of change, just not much hope. These last 3 years have been pretty tough. For 25 million Americans today out of work, people who stop looking for work or are in part-time jobs that can't get full-time work, this has been tough times. I go across the country, I'm buoyed by the spirit of the American people, and I don't ever hear a word of hopelessness, but I hear a lot of people who are real concerned. I see people who thought they'd be retired by now, who are still working minimum wage jobs. I see young people coming out of college expecting to have a great job waiting for them and finding in way too many cases they can't find work. And if they do find work, it's at a skill level far beneath what they were prepared for in their education. I see people coming home from war in Iraq and Afghanistan expecting a job here, not finding one. These have been tough times. And this president is out of ideas, he's running out of excuses, and in 2012, he's out of town. We're going to get over it. He said after he was inaugurated, we're going to play this on TV time and time again in our ads. He said that if he couldn't get this economy turned around in 3 years, he'd be looking at a one-term proposition. Well, we're here to collect, all right? Almost everything he's done has been contrary to what America needed. He campaigned saying that the deficits were too large under President Bush, and they were too large, and yet his are 3 times larger. He's actually on track to amass by the end of his first term, his only term, by the way, he's on track to amass almost as much debt as all the prior presidents combined, public debt. It's unthinkable. And then, not only has he failed to rein in the scale of the federal government and to pare back on programs, he hasn't even put out a plan to balance the budget or to cut back on what we're spending. And then, of course, there's the economy. Almost everything he's done there has made it harder for businesses to reboot and to start hiring people. Obamacare, that didn't encourage people to go out and hire. Cap and trade, that didn't help people go out and hire. Stacking the National Labor Relations Board with labor stooges that told Boeing they couldn't build a factory in South Carolina. That sure as heck didn't help. You know, he likes to talk about his Dodd-Frank bill. That was the banking regulation bill, and how much that's helped. Well, you go ask a community banker whether that's made it easier to make loans to small business. They've pulled back because they're frightened of all the new regulations coming. Then there's energy. The president hasn't taken advantage of our oil, our gas, our coal. It's been a presidency that's been as anti-investment, anti-growth, and anti-jobs as we've ever seen. And that's why, in 2012, we'll be letting him go back to the private sector for a first-time experience with a real job. You know, he gets up in the morning and looks out across the country and says it could be worse. It could be worse. Can you believe that? What it means to be American is to look across the country and say it's going to be better. And if I'm president, I guarantee you it is going to be better. This is a campaign and a race with 2 very different paths to follow. On the one hand, you have a president who I think believes that Europe got it right. I believe Europe isn't working in Europe. I believe that America got it right. This is a president who's comfortable with trillion-dollar deficits as far as the eye can see. I'm only comfortable with cutting spending, capping spending, and having a balanced budget. That's where we're going. This is a president who thinks the best way to get health care costs down is to have the federal government take it over. Yeah, how's that work for Amtrak and the post office, everything else the federal government runs? But my view is you want to get health care to work, repeal Obamacare and get health care to work like a market. This is a president who seems to think that the right course for American foreign policy is appeasement, convinced as he is that our best days are behind us. My view is this must be the 21st century. This must be an American century where our best days are ahead of us, and I will assure that we keep America strong so we can continue to lead the world. Let me just mention the military, by the way. I have a profound respect for the men and women who serve and have served in our military. And I know right now that there are some in Washington who think that the way to balance our budget and to keep spending money on our social programs is to start cutting back on the military. Do you realize our Navy is smaller than any time since 1917? That our Air Force is smaller and older than any time since its founding in 1947? At a time when our soldiers have been in multiple rotations and conflicts, we're planning on cutting 50,000 troops? This is a time when people are talking about pulling back on the Department of Defense budget. And by the way, we have more veterans coming home with both physical needs and mental needs. This is not the time for us to be cutting back on defending America. I will keep America so strong and so superior, no one would ever think of testing our military. Campaign about the soul of America. We have, since our founding, been a nation which has been guided by the principles of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. The founders said that the Creator endowed us with certain unalienable rights. Not the state, but the Creator endowed us with those rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The right Americans have to pursue their dreams as they choose. We're not bound by the circumstance of our birth. We're not told by government what we can and cannot do. We pursue happiness as we choose. We are a merit society, an opportunity society, where people can achieve success, can achieve their dreams based upon their education, if they can get some, their willingness to work hard, their willingness to take risks, maybe to have a little good luck, their dreams. These are individuals who take that course. This merit society, interestingly, does not make us poorer when they're successful. Instead, it makes us better off. That's who we are. That was the wisdom of Adam Smith. This idea of free enterprise, capitalism, pursuit of happiness would make us all better off. And we are better off. The Europeans, for instance, our income per person in America, average income in America, is 50% higher than the average European. President Obama, I think, has a very different dream. I think he wants to make us more like Europe, a European social welfare state, an entitlement society where people in this country feel they're entitled to a whole series of things they want. And government's job under that vision is to take from some to give to others. And by the way, the only people who do well in that kind of setting are the people who do the taking and the giving. That creates greater poverty in our society. I don't want to become like Europe. I don't want to become a social welfare state. I don't want to become an entitlement society. I want to stay true to the principles of free enterprise and freedom upon which this country was based. For the president's policies to work, for his strategy to work, he has to divide America. He wants to, if you will, replace ambition with envy, to cause class warfare. Class warfare will poison the American spirit. We are strong because we are and have been and will always be a nation under God. One nation under God. I think the president's attack on free enterprise and capitalism and success is beneath him. By the way, I've been disappointed that even in our race, some Republicans have jumped in that bandwagon. Recognize it's not the way to build a strong economy to tear down fellow Americans or to attack capitalism. My goodness, I listened to Speaker Gingrich